is. We're officially in the upside down.
Eventually we're live. We are in the
We're
upside down. And there are demons everywhere.
I need the Demogorgons or whatever the things, or 11 to come out, Millie Bobby Brown, I don't know, but the breakdown
whatever the hell that mythos was, the bad guys are everywhere.
Everywhere. The break. What's up, Rick?
Howdy, Maya.
Hi. Before we get into the craziness.
It's been a week of a lot of writing, a lot of work. Go on.
I was going to say, no, before we get into the craziness, since we both talked about the upside down just before the show, and then that made me think of Millie Bobby Brown, we got to talk about the Super Bowl, the thrashing of Drake by Kendrick, but also Donald Trump's favorite team didn't go so well.
I believe someone once came up with a rule about a decade ago about the terminal effects of the contact with Donald Trump. I believe the rule is everything Trump touches dies.
I think that's what it is. I think, Rick, you know that guy, right? I think who came up with
I think it goes something like that.
Everything Trump touches. Yeah.
Something like that.
The Chiefs should have read your book. They should have known, and maybe not.
They should have.
So they were getting a thrashing while their relatives were posing for selfies with Donald Trump.
I'm being told they're gonna briefly take me off camera to fix a technical problem. So you talk amongst yourselves.
I'll talk. I could talk all day about the Super Bowl, but this is what I do want to say. For those of you who watched, I tuned in mainly because I wanted to see the halftime show, but also because I deep down really did want the Chiefs to lose. But I was actually very curious. As you know, in the last show, I talked about the fact that Donald Trump was going to be there almost like overseeing things as almost this emperor, this Colosseum, like we're going back to the gladiator times, and this is his team that's going to win. Like it was a big deal for him. And so for his team to go down in flames, I think in a way that was a win for democracy. But to me, the fact that he left, so it's one thing, he spent taxpayer money to go to the game, yes, but the fact that he went to the game, but then left early, presumably because his team was losing, perhaps because he was upset by the halftime show, but regardless, that is not the presidential thing to do, is to spend, that kind of money to leave early. No, you stay by your team. But I think it just goes to show the kind of person that Donald Trump is. He is a fair-weathered fan. He is a fair-weathered president. And he's barely president right now, since Elon Musk is clearly the person who is sitting behind the Resolute desk. And that's something that was called out on the cover of Time. I think we have that. Let's take a look at that. You know, this is an image that I think a lot of Americans are sitting with right now, because there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Elon Musk is at the Resolute desk. Elon Musk, and apparently also his child, who he is bringing around like an accessory, are the ones in charge, are the ones calling the shots. These are images that normally you'd want to say, hey, this is great. Like, this is an involved father who is showing his kid the ropes. And so, but what this really is a man who is not been confirmed, not been cleared, running a rogue department called Doge that very few people actually know the inner workings of. And he's now meeting with heads of states and sitting in the Oval Office, and as if he is the president. And Donald Trump doesn't appear to be doing much about it at all, because he can't. Like, that's the thing. When somebody buys you for the amount of money that Elon Musk spent on Trump, you don't get a say anymore. And there's a clip that he was actually asked about that. He's like, well, is there anything that Elon Musk is not allowed to touch? We have that clip.
Let's roll it. The criticism from Democrats that these staff reductions, the cuts that Elon Musk and Doge are doing, are an unlawful power grab. Is there anything you've told Elon Musk he cannot touch?
Well, we haven't discussed that much. I'll tell him to go here, go there. He does it. He's got a very capable group of people. Very capable. They know what they're doing. They'll ask questions, and they'll see immediately as somebody gets tongue-tied that they're either crooked or don't know what they're doing. We have very smart people going in, so I've instructed him go into education, go into military, go into other things as we go along, and they're finding massive amounts of fraud, abuse, waste, all of these things. So
can we break that down a little bit? Very smart people going in. Now, we could believe that if those people were actually vetted, if they weren't a bunch of 19-year-olds. Rick, what do you think about this whole the smart people going in and having their way?
First off, and everybody, sorry, folks, we've having some technical issues with various cameras here tonight. First off, the only thing that Elon can't touch is Ivanka. That's apparently like the real red line for Trump. But look, if you're going to audit the government, do you bring in 19-year-old hackers or do you bring in auditors? If you're going to look for fraud, waste, and abuse, do you bring in fraud investigators or do you bring in a bunch of alt-right dipshits? The answer would be you bring in auditors, you bring in investigators. And look, I don't think anybody, left, right, or center, is going to say the government does everything perfectly. There's no fraud ever anywhere. Of course, there's misspent money and inefficiency and all that stuff. But the way they're portraying things like we have to cut all of Medicare because it's all corrupt, or when Elon goes out in pregame saying, well, you know, Social Security's database is flawed, and therefore, let me tell you something. When it's your grandma who gets sidetracked for her Medicaid or her Social Security, this country's going to have a meltdown, and Elon Musk will be chased through the streets with pitchforks and torches. Even Steve Bannon, broken clock being right twice a day, came out today and said, you know, a lot of MAGA voters are on Medicaid.
Very true.
And wrong. And Elon wants to cut it completely to pay for a tax cut for himself.
Well, exactly. And that's what the thing, they never talk about where these savings are going. They never talk about when they cut these funds, where this money is going. And an audit takes time. If anybody who has been audited, it takes time. And so you're telling me that in a matter of days, in a matter of hours, this team of 4 to 5 20-somethings are able to audit entire departments, and that it's a transparent process. I want to know what they're looking for, and yet they're saying, okay, well, we're putting it all on X.
Here's the thing. What they've done is gone through these databases and these websites that the government maintains and look for keywords. And so every time they find a keyword that says things like diversity or equity, like one of the things that they really screwed up on in the Treasury was, in the Treasury Department, the word equity is used rather frequently. It may have a different meaning than the DEI equity, but it screwed them up because they sort of went sideways on it. They went to the USAID through their database and they found things that they just made up lies, like $50 million of condoms to Gaza. You know,
well, and it turns out, well, and it turns out that was actually for
my hat.
And it didn't go to Gaza. I can't remember which country it went to, but it was actually about
it went to Mozambique, and it wasn't even condoms. It was oral contraceptives, and this is part of the whole overarching PEPFAR program, which has stopped AIDS and a lot of sexually communicable diseases in Africa. And of course, of course they've cut it off. It was food aid grown by American farmers, shipped all over the world. So of course, it is now rotting on the docks across this country, rotting in ships, can't get to the people that need it. But you know who's delivering that food in Africa and Latin America, South America, Asia? The Chinese. Congrats, Elon. Your buddies at the CCP are having a great week.
Well, and also it's rarely understood, it seems, in the way that he's going through cutting these things out, is that a lot of these products are supplied by American companies. And so when you decide to just cut 50 million in funding, that idea that this 50 million wasn't actually contributing also to the American economy is a complete and total miss. And so we need to understand that there are American companies that are suffering because of these cuts. It looks like did we lose Rick? Do we have still Rick?
You know, and of course, like I said, they find things that sound bad or that have some word or element in them they think are is this giant scandal, and it's all meant to feed the MAGA media machine, to hold the MAGA media ecosystem, to get it revved up and crazy and all that stuff. And there's an old phrase that that Herb Stein used to use, Nixon's economic advisor. If a thing can't keep going, it stops. I think there is a degree to which this show here that they've done for the last 3 weeks of, God, we found some scandalous spending in the Department of Toilet Seat Standards. This is the outrage. I think it's starting to hit people now because the things they're cutting off, illegally, by the way, are starting to hurt real people. I'll give you an example. In Huntsville, Alabama today, the Power Authority sent out an email and a letter to every single client. And they were told, we've been cutting $100 a month off of your bill because of some spending from the infrastructure bill that has allowed us to give you $100 a month off your bill. Well, that money is stopped. It's not coming anymore. So people are like, wait, what? I have to pay more for my electricity now? Why? What? And here's the deal. That's one fraction of a fragment of one program. You're going to see this ramify out, especially because, you know, the old Willie Sutton line, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. Medicare, Medicaid, disability, and Social Security are where the money is. They're going to go after those programs. We're jinxed tonight, Maya.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, I don't know.
We're like having a bad technical night, but they're going to go after those programs. They're going to go after those programs because that's where the zeros are. They're going to go after those programs because those are programs that don't have a constituency that sits on K Street with 100 lobbyists to make $500,000 a year. Those are normal people get hit by the pain from these things. And part of Project 2025, which was always the plan, praise be upon it, was about hurting people on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and disability. Why? Because as Russ Vaught said, these are people who are feather bedding on welfare. And it's hitting families now. They want to cut 40 or 50% out of SNAP. They want to cut TANF. They want to cut aid and food to children. And I have some bad news for my MAGA friends. While this is a great country and a prosperous nation, it is unevenly great and unevenly prosperous. And there are many, many, many millions of Americans who suffer every single day with a lack of food, with a lack of shelter.
And if you remember, President Musk actually warned people that things were about to get uncomfortable. He said, the American people. Yeah. So this man who's not even from here said, well, the American people are going to have to be uncomfortable. And that's not what Trump campaigned on. He didn't go out on stage and say, hey, everybody, by the way, in order to enact the things I want to enact, things are going to be uncomfortable for a while. And so people thought they were voting for
I was told on day one we were going to drill baby drill. And that gas and eggs would be so cheap, they'd be piled up in the streets. Well,
everyone's having omelets.
Not so much. And you know what's funny to me is I posted the sticker today on Twitter because I wanted to roll a grenade in the room and see what happened, right? And the MAGA universe flipped its shit. How dare you? It's all Biden inflation and da-da-da-da. I promise you, if the price of eggs was down, or the price of gas was down, or inflation was down, it would be the Trump miracle. I directed some people also today to recall that Trump said, oh, the stock market's doing better because they think I'm coming back. The economy is going to do great because they think I'm coming back. Well, he is back, but a lot of the impacts of him being back are not salutary. And a lot of the things that are about to hit people, get ready to pay 25% more for an American car because he's put tariffs on steel and aluminum. As the head of the Ford Motor Company said, this is going to kill us as a whole in the American automotive industry. Maya, we live in a global economy. There are supply chains around the world. You don't just suddenly say, oh, there's a giant wall, a tariff wall, and that factories in America appear to make radiators for cars or whatever product you're thinking. If you want to have those things, you have to plan this out ahead of time. This is all impulsivity. It's all lunacy. And look, he's having a good week with his appointments. He's getting the monkey minions he wanted. He's having a bad week with reality. And one of the realities that I think has been just absolutely smashed as a plan. And makes him dangerous. And but I think of our honor, we lost our reputation, a lot of our dignity this week. We lost a lot of our power because Trump gave it away. He handed it over to Putin without asking for a thing in return. He said he's going to fuck Ukraine, and then Peter conference and said he's going to fuck Ukraine. Say the word fuck.
Have that. But yeah, we can for now. But we actually have a clip of Trump talking about that, so we can look at that clip and maybe get your internet fixed while the clip is rolling.
Do you expect Ukraine?
Say it. What?
Do you view Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace.
We will continue.
I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace. That's what I think.
That's an interesting question. Is a stalling tactic one used
more to go into
figure out how to answer a question?
Let me just make a point to our president, Donald. Ukraine did not go into the war. The war came into Ukraine. It came from Russia. It was ordered by Vladimir Putin. It has been a 3-year war with some of the worst civilian targeted casualties since World War II. Every night, Vladimir Putin fires ballistic and cruise missiles and glide bombs into Ukrainian cities. They do not target anything in those cities except civilian targets. They target hospitals. They target apartment buildings. They target schools. If Vladimir Putin wanted this war over, it would be over tonight. The Ukrainians are the ally of America and the innocent party in the conflict, Donald. But the dishonorable nature of Trump and Pete Hegseth, I call this the Tucker Carlsonification of the party. They now believe that Russia represents American values better than America does. And and Trump is frankly jealous of guys like Putin. He's jealous of a man who can poison his political opponents or throw him out a window or put him in a prison or have him murdered. He loves that. He would die to have those powers. And so I think this has been a deeply embarrassing thing for our country. Our European allies are flipping the fuck out. Hegseth had to walk back a lot of this today because the response at NATO, and I've heard this now from 2 separate people, one American, let me phrase this properly, one American source with an understanding of what's happening over in Munich, and one European source who was in one of the rooms today where, as a senior staff member, where every NATO foreign minister and defense minister was like, What is wrong with you? Are you insane? He'll invade everyone if you do this. He's put Europe in danger. He's put NATO in danger. He's given the Russians and the Chinese a green light for every kind of aggression in the world. Who could have foreseen this, Maya, that a drunken lout who was a Fox News weekend show host would not be able to go into the big show at the Munich Security Conference and negotiate with peers? I can't imagine. I mean, I dread the fact that Trump's going to go to Moscow to the fucking May Day parade. He's going to go to the May Day parade in Moscow.
He's rewarding him for aggression, right? And so this idea that he was going to come in and be the one to put a stop to it is absolutely laughable when he's like, hey, why don't we just bring you back in and make it the G8 again? And it's like, that's not how you treat an aggressor. And he was asked,
you know what it's going to be? It's going to be the G2 at that point.
Yeah, because nobody's going to.
Let's play that.
States.
Do you want to have Russia back to the G7, sir?
I'd love to have them back. I think it was a mistake to throw them out.
Man, we were having all kinds of bugs tonight.
Russia or not liking Russia. It was the G8. And you know, I said, what are you doing? You guys, all you talk about is Russia, and they should be sitting at the table. I think Putin would love to be back. Obama and a couple of other people made a mistake and they got Russia out. It's very possible that if that was the G8, you wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. And if I was president, you definitely wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. But
he talks about it like it's like the lunch table. Like we're just going to invite him back and everything's going to be, we're just going to ignore everything that's happened over the last several years.
Yeah, tell that to hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainian civilians. And look, Putin had one super weapon in this whole war. And he had to wait until January of this year to use it. And that super weapon wasn't a missile or a bomb or a fighter plane or a advanced tank. It was Donald Trump. And as we told people over and over again, if you do this, Trump will make the world into an inferno. And if you give Vladimir Putin a free ride, if you let him go ahead with the destruction of Ukraine, if you let him go ahead with his expansion plans into, I don't know, the Baltics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, if you let him go in to Poland, if you let him go into Romania, he will reconstitute his fantasy of the old Soviet Union. And the person that will have done that will have empowered that completely is Donald Trump. And again, having worked for secretaries of defense before, okay, the embarrassment of Pete Hegseth, the utter embarrassment of that guy representing this country at the highest level of a NATO security conference is absolutely mortifying. He is not a serious person. He is a troll. He is a minion of Trump. And the fact that he was called to walk back today, and the fact that he was called on the carpet by his peers who basically said to him, listen, son, this ain't how it rolls. It's astounding. For 75 years, NATO and the American alliance with NATO, our European partners in NATO and Canada here in North America, we have protected peace in Europe. And what I was reminded of today was when Neville Chamberlain was negotiating and Lord Halifax were negotiating with Hitler, trying to keep him from starting World War II. Please don't invade the Sudetenland. And they went over there at one point, and they basically got rolled. And they came back, and Churchill said, they're like, look at what we did. We're so proud. We got peace. And Churchill said, wait. So basically, a robber came to you and said, give me 50 cents, and you gave him $1. And once you gave him $1, he goes, well, how about $5? Once you gave him $5, it's like, how about all of it? These guys are being rolled by Putin, and they think it's good. They think it's leading to peace. What it will lead to is a freaking conflagration in Europe. And I know history is hard. And I know for Pete Hegseth that it has to be drawn out in simple pictograms in a coloring book because he's that fucking stupid. And I know for Donald Trump, history is whatever fantasy movie's playing in his head at that given moment. But this is a bad and risky week for the alliance. I hope we survive it as an alliance. I hope that we do not betray people who trusted in us, not only for 75 years in NATO, but for the last 3 years in Ukraine as they fought for their survival against the return of the evil empire.
Well, and this is the opportunity for the American people to continue to speak up and stand up and say, this is not us. This may be the temporary leadership that we have right now. Because when we look at the cabinet choices across the board, now that we have RFK Jr. confirmed and we have Tulsi Gabbard confirmed, it's like he has this cabinet that represents the worst of the worst of the worst. And the American people are going, well, what are we going to do? What can we do when this is who leads us? And to that, I say, we speak up. The entire world is watching, and they actually have our back. In the same way that we cheered on South Korea when they stood up and said, no, we're a democracy and we want to continue to be a democracy. The rest of the world is watching us and waiting for us to do the same. And so we need to show them that we've got a little bit of a backbone, because the people in Ukraine were willing to go out and fight for their country when it was attacked. We needed to do the same before it comes to the fact that we might have, nobody wants that. We still have a democracy right now. We still have those things that we can fight for, even though Donald Trump is trying to make it just even the fact that the AP is being forced to call it the Gulf of America or won't be allowed in. The freedom of press is under attack. We can't just have if every company and organization.
It's under, as trivial as it sounds, and as much as I don't want people to get distracted by the swirl of the Gulf of America and the crazy shit, the contempt for the press is the central feature of the Trump regime. They don't believe they're going to be covered. They believe they will be able to break any news organization to their will. And the truth of the matter is they've had a lot of success in that. So, folks, a lot of what you need to do as we go forward is to make sure you're sharing stories that are tough on the Trump administration from good journalists. Not just clickbaity stuff, but real things. There are a lot of journalists trying to do the hard work right now, and they don't have a lot of allies because they've made a lot of mistakes. They've normalized the guy, and they've done a little bit of I don't want to lose my access to the guy. Not exclusively and not entirely and not universally, but enough for it to be problematic, enough for it to be an issue. But, look, Donald Trump can name New York City, New Trump City if he wants to. It doesn't make it that in the real world. And, we're going to face this sort of thing. But a lot of the trolling stuff that I think they think is funny is making us seem less serious as a country and as a people. And as we end up, folks, it's important to remind your MAGA cousins, friends, the guy on your Facebook page, all those people, when they start saying, oh, you're liberals or communists or whatever, just ask them, how did renaming the Gulf of Mexico help you economically? Did that cut a single dollar off your grocery bill last month? How did spending all that time on that help your family? How did all those cuts to AID help farmers in the Midwest and the Deep South? All those things, put it in a context of the harm that is being done to people in the country. Because, guys, we've never in 10 years had a way to crack the MAGA shell. Even the Lincoln Project were very good communicators, but we were never good at getting the hardcore red hat truck nuts guy. Right now, those people are absolutely in a hateful situation. They're getting screwed. Tariffs are going to hurt the entire economy, and it's going to hurt them. The immigration roundups have killed construction and agriculture around the country. People can't get workers. They are desperate. And it's Trump's fault. They're seeing it now. Are we ever going to break them all off? Absolutely not. There will always be a cult. But there are people now who are seeing he is harming them and their families. Keep talking about those things as we go forward.
And there's a lot of talk about not goading them and not gloating about it. But I think it's really important to understand that until people feel the consequences of their actions, they won't hit that rock bottom. I was just having this conversation with somebody today. It's like, you've got to feel the pain.
Right.
And so sometimes right now, Trump is trying to coddle them and trying to say, oh, well, we're working on these things now and we'll get to that later. And they're trying to give them things like the Gulf of America as like a consolation prize or as an appetizer while they wait. And I think it's key, as you said, Rick, to like hammer home, like this isn't the time to coddle someone's feelings and be nice about it. People need to feel the pain because that's the only way that some people, unfortunately, are motivated to change. That's how you wake them up. But at the same time, I do think it is important to understand that what Trump is trying to do is create a universe in which the only press that has access to him is press that will reinforce his propaganda and reinforce his message. And that is so very dangerous right now because we're in a place where, you know, OAN, I think it was OAN that has an office in the Pentagon now instead of like
the New York Times and CNN do not, but Breitbart does. OAN does. Daily Caller does. They want to curate the media universe to fit the whims and the narrative they want to develop. It should scare the hell out of people. But, you know, one of the things that is a slight note of optimism, and you guys know I'm not Mr. Sunshine.
I was like, give it to me, Rick.
The cabinet is so truly, truly terrible at every level. The cabinet is so truly, like, if you happen to see Linda McMahon's hearing today to be the head of the Department of Education, you could have rolled a guy from underneath a park bench who could have had more cogent answers about education. Hegseth, drunk, clown, shallow end of the gene pool. Gabbard, who is going to betray this country. The good thing is, I talked to a friend of mine today who said every person that I know in intelligence is sharing the counterintelligence reporting hotline because they're ready to call in on her. But these people are not serious people. They are all there at Trump's pleasure. They are all there as supporting cast members in his reality TV show. And they are going to be embarrassingly bad at their work and their jobs. Some are very dangerous, Kash Patel, RFK, but a lot of them are clownish. RFK may combine danger and clownishness, but you're going to get a chance to see those people. That will penetrate even the bullshit tornado of a lot of the media coverage right now that Trump's trying to curate.
Yeah, the incoming disaster of all of them and their decisions is something that unfortunately we're all going to have to bear the consequences of, but hopefully it will be short-lived. I have no idea who he might replace them with once they do something to piss him off, but hopefully in the meantime, because again, I think all of these cabinet picks also run a little bit of distraction, a little bit of subterfuge for what's going on with Doge. So I want all eyes on Doge and what they're pulling. So
all eyes should still be on Elon and Doge. That's where the danger is. Although, you know, look, folks, if you want to know what a lot of what's going on with Doge, you're going to have to dig into these court filings, these court cases, because there is a lot of detail and granularity in those that you're not seeing otherwise. But look, and I think speaking of the courts and the judicial system, I think there's a story coming together here with this Eric Adams pardon, or this Eric Adams prosecution decision. The U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, who clerked for Antonin Scalia, a Republican, a conservative, said to the White House today, you stopped the prosecution of Eric Adams because he bribed you. by saying he would cooperate with you on immigration. It's illegal. It's illegal. You can't do that. There are still people in the judicial system who are willing to say no. Now, she was fired, of course, by Emil Bove and Pam Bondi. But this case is going to court. This will go to court. They have made the first scandal we a whopper, guys. This thing told it just right up New York. If you churches and synagogues and everyone else in New York round people up, won't for a open and shut. And if you're wondering if Eric Adams is corrupt, literally took cash from Turkish for political favors in this. Not even disputed. So I think the crisis is largely this out in the judicial. You know, look, folks, it's been a rough week. We know that. We get it. The pressure and the cracks inside the MAGA movement are widening, and they're growing with their base. I mean, today, I don't know if you saw this, but a whole big group of Republican congressmen who said, we're so MAGA, we're the ultra MAGA, ultra. By the way, please, Mr. President, don't veto USAID aid because our people need it. And
how quickly the tunes change when they realize that their positions might be at risk because they don't get reelected.
A week ago,
To serve the people. They're supposed to serve the people.
A week ago, they were like, nah. Now they're panicking. So keep driving those messages.
The people,
and folks,
our internet is so
get 5
janky.
calls on your phone.
Yes.
I know it's so janky. I'm so sorry.
Like this, all the calls. You should all be calling. Call your elected representatives. Call them. In the amount of time it takes to respond to a troll, you can call at least 1 or 2 senators. Oh, hey, Renee.
That's right.
Make the calls, guys. It does make a difference.
Guys, call your congressman, call your senators, make a difference. All right. I think Elon's stepping on our signal tonight.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if he was like he's like, there's an inefficiency I detect in Florida. And then they're just sending it in. I would not be surprised.
All right, guys. And weirdly, because my internet, I just checked internet, this is right now. I don't get it, but here we are. Well, folks, we'll be back again next week. What do we have? Do we have any more video? Everything else? We've got no, I don't think we've got everything. We've run everything. I think, friends, we're going to call it a night. We have struggled up this mountain of technical problems this evening, but we will be back again next week. Shiny, clean, and
better, stronger. All right. See you guys next week.
Faster, stronger. We can rebuild, get better.